Hello, my name's Emily Cutts. I was born here in Glasgow. I'm a mother, first and foremost, just someone who's passionate about being involved in their community and trying to make a difference. I'm not a member of any political party. In a nutshell, there's a very long history around the land which has become known as the Children's Wood and North Kelvin Meadow. For many decades, the community have been trying to keep the land. So way back in like 1996, people tried to stop development of the land. At that point, the land was playing fields and tennis courts, and it's where the local schools played their sports days. They used it for gym and that kind of thing. So people put in objections. It went to the Scottish government, and it was rejected. The plans were rejected. So then a community group started, the Compendium Trust, my neighbour upstairs, and they worked for 10 years trying to get an alternative plan, which in the end fell through. And their plan was to upgrade the football pitches. They had a little meadow, some social housing and a few other things, but it all fell apart. But in that time, what was really interesting was the land had grown, and there was many trees on the land, and it started to look really beautiful. There had been a bit of rotivation and plant seeding by Ian Black in the community in the 90s. So a few things have been done. So a local community member, Douglas Peacock, he started a litter pick, and we all joined in, and I think we had like 90 bin bags of rubbish that day. So anyway, the land was now beautiful, and they started, a new campaign emerged to say, look, we want this land for the community. And after a couple of years of like litter picking and some bit of planting, we started to think there was still quite a lot of fatalism around the space. Oh, you just won't do it. The sort of typical Scottish, like just don't, it's never been done. The development's £10 million, you just can't do it. So we decided, not for that reason actually, but that was one of the reasons. But one of the main reasons was we could now see this land could actually meet many 21st century needs like mental health, but particularly children are really suffering from not getting outside. There's mental health problems as young as 4. Children, don't break their legs falling out of trees. They're indoors a lot, and they're suffering as a consequence. So we decided to create an alternative. So rather than fight with the council, we wanted to show them how we could meet the city's aims and objectives. So there were all these policies and strategies, and there still are, for outdoor learning, connecting with nature, for mental health. But it was like, where is this actually happening in our community? Mm-hmm. So we wanted to actually make it happen right here on our doorstep and try and show the council, we are helping the city, we're helping your kids, we're helping local people to be happy and live a good life. And rather than fighting a campaign, we wanted to show a vision, an alternative, and that's what we kept on doing for 10 years. And so that, in the end, I feel the children particularly was the thing that helped us secure the land. So we put in a counter planning application to the developers plan. The developers wanted to build 100-ish houses on the land, really high-end housing, no social housing. So we put in a counter plan with the late Alex McGregor, who was a city planner, and also he was an architect as well. So he put in a counter plan for us, which was, we want to keep this land as a community park and green space. So both planning applications went to the city council, and both got accepted. And this is the weird quirk of Scottish planning, is you can get planning permission for someone else. You can have 2 planning permissions granted at the same time. But behind the scenes, we had petitioned the government, said, if the developers get planning permission, please can you call us in and examine it, because it's going against some city planning policies, like we're getting no like for like and things like this. So they called it in, and then they rejected the plan. It got investigated. There was a public hearing, and then their plan got kicked out, and then our plan was successful. And then more recently, we through the Community Empowerment Bill have got a lease for the land for 25 years. So it was a long running battle, and David managed to beat Goliath in the end. There's many more battles locally to be fought and won. There's so many issues facing our communities, trying to tackle the issues of inclusion, equality, and a voice for young people and the most marginalised young people, getting them to feel included and part of their community.
Mm.
So there's still many more issues. In terms of the land, well, we've got some security for 25 years, but there's still many other things we'd like to do. We've got
Mm.
beekeeping, there's going to be forest school with Andrea. We're hoping to become a forest school centre. There's gardening for mental health. We're doing the 5 ways to wellbeing. So there's lots of other ways through the land we can help the
Oh,
community. I guess I grew up in a very musical household, and Eddie Maguire, the Scottish composer, used to come to our house every day. So I heard a lot of music in my early years, and I guess that made me feel very Scottish, because there was a lot of Scottish music being played,
mm.
Scottish classical music maybe more, and some folky stuff. So happiness, yeah, this is why I do what I do, because growing up in Glasgow specifically, I don't know about other places in Scotland, there is an undercurrent negative culture. You can't get away from it. If you've grown up in Glasgow, you know about it. Don't stick your head above the parapet. Really critical. Not allowing people, if people make mistakes, shooting them down, and not letting people get away with trying to do better and be better. So I think that, to me, there's so many good things about Scottish culture, but that negative undercurrent really pervades. Well, when growing up, I felt it really strongly in school, and in my community, and I could see a lot of, it was just by luck where you're born and who your family are, but a lot of people maybe didn't have what other people had, and if you didn't have that kind of support in school, you really were left to flounder and pigeonholed into, you're a success or you're a failure. You're art, you're sporty, you're sporty or you're not, you're arty or you're not, you're mathematic or you're not, or there's no sort of in between. It's very black and white, is what I'm saying, and
Mm.
kind of negative. And I feel that that pervades not just education, but maybe business as well. And it was only when I got older and I left Scotland, I could analyse it a bit more and see what it was, see it for what it was. But I realised there's so many positive things about Scottish culture that I couldn't live anywhere else but Glasgow. I love Glasgow specifically. I love Scotland in general. And it was working with Carol Craig that really articulated that Scottish negative undercurrent. You can tell the criminal by the look in the crib. Those kind of Calvinist attitudes that she talks about in The Scots Crisis of Confidence, which is a book everyone should read, I feel. So working for her, I could see she had critiqued the Scottish, that aspect that I really felt growing up and could see growing up. And then for me was bringing some ideas that could then change that and make a little difference through her work in the Centre for Confidence and Wellbeing, and also for me the positive psychology, which I was very interested in, had a part to play in that. So yeah, so I think there's a lot of barriers to happiness. I mean, one of the biggest probably strengths for Scotland is like our communities and relationships, because that's one of the biggest things that make you happy. So that's a real positive about Scottish culture, is just there's such strong communities. And I noticed that living in Maryhill, like, wow, and North Kelvin side, it's like there's a real strong community. It's really, that's a real happy side to Scottish culture.